When I heard that a movie about a professional ping pong player was coming around, I knew only one thing and only one thing about that. I'm definitely not going to see that movie. Frankly, because the idea of a ping pong or watching a ping pong movie fills me with the feeling of not only boredom, but downright dread. However, Marty Supreme was recently nominated for several major Oscars, and Timothy Chalamet won the Golden Globe for Best Actor in a Motion Picture Drama. And I also found out recently that the main titular character of Marty Supreme was a very flawed individual, deceitful, a liar, and a man who repeatedly cheats on his wife. And all these facts combined suddenly gave me a renewed interest in watching Marty Supreme. I figured that the movie would probably have a lot more going for it rather than just being a movie about ping pong. I mean, I think it would be a little misleading to call Rocky a movie about boxing, because it's arguably the stuff that happens outside the ring in Rocky that truly tells the story of Rocky. Thankfully, I was right. Marty Supreme is more, a lot more, than a movie about ping pong. We don't start the movie with Marty Supreme trying or aspiring to be a professional ping pong player. He already is one. His goal here in this story is to basically win, and win as much as possible, and climb the ping pong ranks to the highest point he possibly can, which takes him all the way to the Olympics. However, once again, rather than the sport of ping pong being the focus of this movie, the real focus of the movie is the man himself, Marty Mauser, or Marty Supreme, his relationships, and his flaws. I said previously that one of the reasons I was finally drawn in to watch Marty Supreme is because I had heard that Marty Supreme was kind of a deceitful, dishonest, and deeply flawed individual. This finally hooked me in because I feel one of the things that makes biopics entertaining is an honest and candid and uncensored look at the main character. Basically, I was thinking Marty Supreme was some sort of an anti hero, and basically, movies and stories about anti heroes are generally more entertaining than stories where the hero is portrayed as completely flawless. Take Jordan Belfort in Martin Scorsese's The Wolf of Wall Street as probably the best biopic about an anti hero. However, here, I didn't come away admiring Marty Supreme in the same way I admired Leonardo DiCaprio's Jordan Belfort. By the end of Marty Supreme, I was just kind of left with the feeling of indifference towards Timothy Chalamet's Marty Supreme. I think the directing was superb in the movie, at least for the first half of the movie, and I think Timothy Chalamet did a stellar job portraying the character. I just think what let this movie down is the script. The last half of the movie just doesn't go anywhere of profound importance, and the movie doesn't seem to develop Timothy Chalamet's character as well as, say, other characters in biopics like The Wolf of Wall Street's Jordan Belfort or Rocky's Rocky Balboa are developed. Don't get me wrong, I do think there are events in Marty Supreme that change Marty Supreme's perspective on life, but it just feels like the movie just happens. You just don't feel connected to Marty Supreme or feel inspired by Marty Supreme in the same way the best biopics inspire and move you. This movie just comes and then slowly goes. I'm not saying it's a bad movie, it's just not an exceptional movie. It's just not one of the better biopics out there. Picks like Million Dollar Baby, Rocky, Barry Lyndon, The Aviator, and Walk the Line are all biopics that inspire you. Contrarily, Marty Supreme just left me with a feeling of indifference towards the titular character. I just didn't feel particularly inspired, thrilled, or moved by Marty Supreme or Marty Supreme's story. Timothy Chalamet's Marty Mauser is a scheming, thieving con who cheats on women, and then nothing really changes. Sure, without giving spoilers away, circumstances change, but it just feels like Timothy Chalamet's Marty Mauser doesn't change or want to change. There just doesn't seem to be any internal tension in Chalamet's character that he's battling with. He just basically is the same man in the beginning as he is throughout the movie and at the end. Again, I'm not saying that this is a bad movie. The character development just didn't inspire and move me in the same way the best biopics generally do. I know some of those biopics I just mentioned were not even based on real characters. And by the way, Marty Supreme, I was surprised to learn, is also not necessarily a biopic. I was very surprised to learn that Marty Supreme is loosely based on American table tennis champion Marty Reisman. so this movie isn't necessarily a historical biopic either. The Marty Supreme, or Marty Mauser, played by Timothy Chalamet in this movie, is actually loosely based on the story of 1950s table tennis champion Marty Reisman. So I guess that's why they changed the name to Mauser for this film, because the film is not meant to be read as a historical interpretation of Marty Reisman or history. However, regardless of whether a biopic is historically based or not, the best biopics, even biopics that are based on flawed anti-heroes, like Martin Scorsese's The Wolf of Wall Street, are in their own way inspiring to watch. The similarly themed biopic The Wolf of Wall Street feels like a fun time. It's a movie that feels fun to watch. On the other hand, I wouldn't describe the experience of watching Marty Supreme as fun to watch. It just feels like a series of events chained together by a competent director, attached with believable real dialogue spoken by talented actors. Yet despite the individual merits of this movie, the whole experience of watching the movie just doesn't feel particularly great. Despite this movie's individual strengths, the movie overall just doesn't feel like a fun time or convey a meaning of profound importance like the best biopics generally do. Whilst Marty Supreme's competent cast and director did do a stellar job here in this film, I also don't think the job they did was particularly outstanding compared to the very best of Hollywood movies. Maybe one of the biggest reasons I did not love Marty Supreme is the sport of ping pong. As I said in the beginning of my review, I just find the sport extremely annoying. Just the sound of the clacking on the ball, on the bat, and the table annoys the heck out of me. I'm not sure if you feel the same way. However, I think most people don't have much interest in the sport of ping pong either. However, if you do, then maybe you'll be one of this movie's biggest fans. Though again, ping pong is not really the focus of the movie, and there really isn't that much ping pong in the movie to the point it would ruin the movie anyway. I did, however, walk away from the movie with a greater understanding and appreciation of what it takes to be a ping pong champion. This sport looks like it can really wear out your cardio super fast. And this sport to me looks even more intense than boxing and mixed martial arts. And part of that intensity must come from the fact that the ball makes a clacking sound, which is just very hard to endure. Overall, Marty Supreme is a good, solid, entertaining movie. However, despite its numerous Oscar nominations, don't go in expecting a masterpiece. I don't think it's even one of the best movies of 2025. Marty Supreme is not a must-watch movie, but if you do decide to see it, I think you will be thoroughly entertained. Thank you, and if you enjoyed this review, then please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you want to keep up with my work here. Thank you.